Meri Brown just dropped a financial bombshell so explosive that it has fundamentally rewritten everything fans thought they knew about the Brown family's so-called equal partnership. The money from her Las Vegas home sale, the house she paid for entirely on her own, went directly into funding Robyn Brown's luxury mansion purchase in Flagstaff. Let that sink in for a moment. For years, viewers watched Meri struggle, watched her rent modest accommodations while Robyn lived in increasingly extravagant properties, and now we finally understand exactly why. This was not bad luck. This was not poor financial planning. This was systematic redistribution of wealth from one wife to another, and Meri has finally had enough of staying silent about it. The confirmation of what fans suspected for years hit like a freight train. Sources close to Meri reveal she was expected to sign non-disclosure agreements about how family finances were handled, essentially forced into silence while Robyn lived lavishly on money Meri had earned. But Meri has declared she is done being quiet, and the revelations pouring out now are absolutely devastating. One insider put it bluntly, saying Meri essentially funded Robyn's entire Flagstaff lifestyle while getting absolutely nothing in return. The irony is staggering when you consider how the family always preached about fairness and equal treatment among the wives. Robyn Brown, the woman who joined this family last, the woman who brought debt and drama into an already complicated situation, ended up in a mansion worth over $900,000. Meanwhile, Meri, who had been with Kody since the beginning, who sacrificed her legal marriage status so Robyn could be legally adopted into the family, was left renting, and now we know her own money made Robyn's luxury possible. The audacity of this arrangement is absolutely breathtaking when you step back and look at the full picture. Fans who have followed Sister Wives from the beginning are experiencing a collective moment of vindication mixed with outrage. They always sensed something was deeply wrong with how Robyn seemed to enjoy privileges the other wives never received. They watched Christine leave, watched Janelle distance herself, watched Meri exist in a strange limbo of rejection and obligation. Now the financial receipts are finally being exposed, and they paint a picture of manipulation and favoritism that goes far deeper than anyone imagined. This was not a family operating on shared principles. This was a system designed to benefit two people at everyone else's expense. The mic drop moment came when Meri laid out exactly how her Vegas home sale proceeds were redirected to fund Robyn's mansion purchase. She did not hedge or speak in vague terms. She was direct, she was specific, and she was clearly done protecting people who never protected her. The host of the tell-all, Sukanya, was reportedly visibly stunned by the revelations, and honestly, so was everyone else listening. This is the kind of financial betrayal that would end most marriages and destroy most families, and now it is all out in the open for the world to see. The Brown family always presented themselves as a unit operating on shared financial principles, a family that pooled resources together for everyone's collective benefit. Kody himself preached this philosophy repeatedly throughout Sister Wives, talking about how all income went into one pot and all expenses came out of that same pot fairly. It sounded reasonable on the surface. It sounded like a system designed to ensure no wife was left behind while others thrived. But as Meri's revelations now make crystal clear, the promise and the reality were two entirely different things. Allow me to translate what this supposed equal system actually looked like in practice. Robyn ended up in a mansion with a guest house, living like royalty in Flagstaff. Meri rented, Janelle rented, Christine, who apparently learned the hard way that renting meant getting nothing out of the deal, eventually bought her own property just to avoid throwing money away on rent forever. Three wives scrambled and struggled while one wife lived in luxury. And we are supposed to believe this was all fair and equal? The math is not mathing, folks. The math has never mathed, and now we understand exactly why. Sources familiar with the family's financial arrangements describe a system that existed in name only. One insider revealed that the pooled money concept was real, but where that money actually went was entirely controlled by Kody, and Kody's priorities were painfully obvious to everyone involved. Another source described it as watching resources flow in one direction only, always toward Robyn, always justified by some excuse or another. The other wives were expected to contribute but rarely benefited equally from what they put in. What makes this revelation even more devastating is understanding how long this system operated before anyone spoke up publicly. Meri stayed silent for years. She watched Robyn upgrade from one home to an even more expensive mansion, while she herself struggled. She bit her tongue during family meetings, during filming, during all those moments when speaking breaking up might have changed everything. The NDAs she was expected to sign tell us everything we need to know about how aware Kody and Robyn were that these arrangements were fundamentally unfair. You do not demand silence about something unless you know it looks bad in the light. The contrast between what viewers were told and what was actually happening behind closed doors is absolutely staggering. Sister Wives sold audiences a fantasy of plural marriage where sacrifice and sharing created something beautiful. In reality, it was a system where some wives sacrificed everything while one wife shared in nothing but the benefits. Meri's money built Robyn's dream home. Let that sink in for a moment. The wife who was emotionally abandoned, who was pushed to the margins of her own family, was simultaneously funding the lifestyle of the wife who replaced her in Kody's affections. But this revelation is just the tip of a very large and very ugly iceberg. And the specific details of how Meri's Vegas home sale money ended up in Robyn's possession are even more infuriating than the general picture suggests. The Las Vegas home situation reveals a level of financial manipulation that borders on the unbelievable, and the details Meri has shared paint a devastating portrait of how Kody operated within this marriage. Meri paid for everything related to that Vegas property. Every single mortgage payment came from her income. Every repair, every upgrade, every dollar spent on making that house a home came directly from Meri's pocket. Yet when it came time to sell, Kody's name was right there on the deed, entitling him to claim half the proceeds as if he had contributed anything at all. Let me be brutally honest here about what this actually represents. Meri worked, earned money, and made every single payment on a property that Kody then claimed partial ownership of, simply because his name appeared on paperwork. She built equity through her own labor and sacrifice, and he walked in at the end to demand his cut. One source close to the situation described it as financial abuse disguised as family cooperation. Another said it was watching someone's hard work get stolen in slow motion, all while being told it was for the greater good. The host of the tell-all, Sukanya, reportedly could barely contain her shock when Meri explained exactly what Kody demanded from the Vegas sale. Her reaction was visceral, the kind of genuine stunned response that tells you even people familiar with the Brown family drama were not prepared for this level of audacity. Kody apparently felt completely entitled to proceeds from a home he never paid a dime toward, and the justification was simply that they were married and everything was shared. Convenient how that sharing principle only seemed to apply when it benefited Kody and Robyn. What happened to those Vegas sale proceeds tells the real story of Brown family finances. The money did not go into some neutral family account to be distributed fairly. It did not fund improvements to Coyote Pass that would benefit everyone. It went directly toward the purchase of a mansion near Flagstaff, a property that Robyn and Kody would call home while Meri was left with nothing to show for years of payments. $900,000. That is roughly what Robyn's mansion cost. And Meri's Vegas money helped make it possible. The paper trail is damning, and Meri has apparently kept receipts that prove exactly where her money went. She is not making vague accusations or speaking in generalities. She has specific numbers, specific transactions, specific moments where she watched her earned income redirect towards someone else's luxury lifestyle. Fans who always wondered how Robyn afforded such an extravagant home while claiming the family was struggling financially now have their answer. She afforded it because other wives, particularly Meri, unwillingly funded it. But the mansion purchase was only possible because of Robyn's peculiar inability to find a rental property that met her exact specifications, and the story of how she ended up buying instead of renting exposes another layer of favoritism that will absolutely infuriate you. When the Brown family relocated to Flagstaff, all the wives faced the same challenge of finding suitable housing in a new city. Janelle found a rental. Meri found a rental. They did what practical people do when moving to a new area, which is take what is available and make it work. But Robyn apparently operated under an entirely different set of expectations, and those expectations somehow resulted in her being the only wife to purchase a home while everyone else scrambled. Sources reveal that Robyn could not find a single rental property in Flagstaff that met her exact specifications. Let that sink in for a moment. In an entire city full of rental options, not one single property was good enough for Robyn Brown. The other wives managed to find places without drama, but Robyn needed something special, something specific, something that apparently only a purchased home could provide. And guess who pushed until Robyn reluctantly agreed to buy instead of rent? Always Kody, advocating for whatever Robyn wanted while the other wives were expected to simply manage. One insider described the rental search as theatrical rather than genuine. They claim Robyn made a show of looking at properties while having no real intention of renting when buying was an option. Another source said Kody presented the purchase as if Robyn needed convincing, as if she was doing the family a favor by agreeing to buy a home with their shared resources. Allow me to translate that for you. Robyn wanted a house. Kody wanted Robyn to have whatever she wanted. The purchase was framed as necessity when it was actually preference all along. The contrast with how other wives handled housing could not be more stark. Janelle rented a property that was simply adequate, nothing fancy, nothing perfect, just functional housing for her and her children. Meri rented similarly, accepting what was available without demanding that the family stretch its resources to meet her exact preferences. Christine eventually bought her own home, but only after learning the hard way that years of renting left you with nothing when it was time to move on. Only Robyn needed special accommodation, and only Robyn received it. What makes this even more infuriating is the supposed financial stress the family was under during this period. Kody talked constantly about money concerns, about the challenges of maintaining multiple households, about the need for everyone to sacrifice for the greater good. Yet somehow those concerns evaporated when it came to Robyn's housing needs. Suddenly there was money for a purchase. Suddenly the family could stretch to accommodate her preferences. Suddenly sacrifice meant something different when applied to the favored wife. The house Robyn initially purchased in Flagstaff was not some modest compromise property either. It was a substantial home in a desirable area. Exactly the kind of property you would expect someone to buy when money was no object. But here is the truly outrageous part that fans are only now fully understanding. That first house was not good enough for long. It was eventually sold so Robyn could upgrade to an even larger mansion with a guest house, meaning Meri's Vegas money essentially funded not one but two luxury homes for her sister wife. The mansion upgrade scandal represents perhaps the most egregious example of financial favoritism in the entire Brown family saga, and the details will make your blood boil if you have been following this story. Robyn's first Flagstaff home, the one purchased because no rental could meet her specifications, was eventually deemed insufficient. So what did the family do? They sold it and bought an even larger property, a full-blown mansion, complete with a guest house that Robyn apparently needed for reasons that remain mysteriously unspecified. Let me walk you through exactly what this means in practical terms. Meri's Vegas home sale proceeds helped fund Robyn's initial Flagstaff purchase. Then that property was sold, and the equity from that sale, equity built partially on Meri's money, went toward purchasing an even more expensive mansion. Meri essentially funded two homes for Robyn while receiving nothing in return. She watched her hard-earned money transform into luxury real estate that she would never live in, never benefit from, and never see any return on. The audacity is absolutely staggering. Sources close to the family describe the mansion upgrade as the moment when even loyal defenders of the Browns began questioning what was really happening. One insider said it was impossible to justify a wife upgrading to a mansion with a guest house while other wives were still renting or struggling financially. Another described it as watching wealth transfer happen in real time while everyone pretended it was normal family dynamics. These were not jealous observers making unfounded accusations. These were people close to the situation who could no longer ignore the obvious favoritism. Fan reactions to the double upgrade have been absolutely scathing, and rightfully so. Social media exploded with commentary about how Robyn managed to live like royalty while claiming the family operated on shared principles. Viewers who watched Meri struggle emotionally and financially throughout recent seasons suddenly understood the source of her pain more clearly. She was not just dealing with rejection from Kody, she was watching her own money fund his new life with another woman. That is not plural marriage. That is financial exploitation with a religious veneer. The guest house detail particularly infuriated longtime viewers. What exactly did Robyn need a guest house for? Who was staying in this additional structure while Meri rented modest accommodations? The excess of it all, the sheer unnecessary luxury while other wives went without, perfectly captures everything wrong with how this family operated. Robyn got a mansion with a guest house. Meri got nothing but the privilege of paying for it. But when confronted about these financial arrangements, Robyn attempted a defense so weak and so easily demolished that it only made things worse. And Meri's response to that defense was absolutely savage. Robyn's attempted defense of the financial arrangements centered on one specific claim that she apparently thought would exonerate her from accusations of benefiting unfairly from family resources. Her argument was simple. Kody paid the insurance on the Vegas property, therefore he contributed, therefore he was entitled to proceeds from the sale. It was the kind of defense that sounds almost reasonable for about 3 seconds until you actually think about it. And Meri did not let those 3 seconds pass without demolishing the argument completely. Meri's response was devastating in its simplicity and accuracy. Insurance costs are calculated into mortgage payments. When you make a mortgage payment, you are typically paying principal, interest, taxes, and insurance all bundled together. So when Meri made every single mortgage payment on that Vegas property, she was already paying the insurance that Robyn claimed Kody covered separately. The defense was not just weak, it was factually incorrect, and Meri called it out with the kind of precision that only comes from from someone who has been holding receipts for years. One source close to the situation described Robyn's insurance defense as embarrassing to witness. They said it was clear Robyn did not actually understand how mortgage payments work. Or worse, she was hoping no one else understood either. Another insider was more blunt, saying it was the kind of excuse a child makes when caught with their hand in the cookie jar, transparent and immediately disprovable. The fact that this was apparently Robyn's best defense tells you everything about how indefensible the actual arrangements were. The demolition of Robyn's insurance argument left absolutely no remaining justification for the financial arrangements. If Kody contributed nothing to the Vegas property, not the down payment, not the monthly payments, not even the insurance he claimed to cover, then on what possible basis was he entitled to half the proceeds? The answer is simple: he was not entitled. He simply took what he wanted because the system was designed to let him take it, and Meri was expected to accept that arrangement quietly. What makes this exchange even more significant is what it reveals about Robyn's awareness of the unfairness. She felt the need to defend the arrangements, which means she knew they looked bad. She attempted to justify Kody's share, which means she understood that justification was required. You do not defend something that is obviously fair and equitable. You only scramble for excuses when you know the reality is indefensible. Robyn's weak defense was essentially an admission that she knew Meri got a raw deal. But the treatment of Meri's money becomes even more outrageous when you compare it to how the family reacted when Christine tried to keep proceeds from her own home sale, and the double standard is absolutely impossible to ignore. When Christine Brown decided to leave Kody and sell her Flagstaff property, the family's reaction to her keeping the proceeds revealed a double standard so glaring that it practically screams hypocrisy. Kody complained loudly and publicly that Christine's home sale money should go into the family account. He argued that proceeds from any family property belonged to everyone, not just the wife whose name happened to be on the deed. Sound familiar? It should, except the rules apparently only applied in one direction. Let me spell out exactly how absurd this contradiction is. Meri's Vegas money was freely taken and redirected to fund Robyn's mansion purchases without complaint from Kody. But when Christine wanted to keep money from her own property sale, suddenly the sanctity of shared family finances became critically important. Meri gave without being asked. Christine was pressured to give against her will. The only difference was which wife the money was flowing toward and which wife it was flowing from. Christine ultimately had to bargain away her interest in the Coyote Pass property just to keep the proceeds from her own home sale. Let that sink in for a moment. She had to give up her stake in land the family had purchased together, land that was supposed to be their collective future, simply to retain money she had every right to keep. Meri was never given that option. Meri was never even asked. Her money simply disappeared into Robyn's real estate portfolio while she stood by silently, bound by expectations and NDAs. Sources describe the negotiations around Christine's departure as tense and revealing. One insider said Kody's insistence that Christine's money belonged to the family was rich, coming from someone who had already redirected another wife's money without similar concern. Another noted that the different treatment exposed what everyone already suspected, that family money rules only existed to benefit Kody and Robyn, not to protect all wives equally. The double standard was not subtle, it was blatant and shameless. The parallel treatment could not be more damning when laid out side by side. Meri's money freely given to Robyn, Christine's money fought over when she tried to leave. Family principles invoked only when convenient for the people in power. This was not a financial system designed for fairness. This was a system designed to extract maximum value from wives who were out of favor while protecting the resources of those who were in favor. And the example of Meri's grandmother's house makes this pattern even more painfully clear. The grandmother's house situation crystallizes everything wrong with how the Brown family treated Meri financially, and the contrast with Robyn's experience is absolutely heartbreaking. When Meri wanted to purchase her grandmother's home, a property with deep personal and emotional significance, the family provided exactly zero assistance. No pooled resources came to her aid. No creative financing solutions were offered. No one stepped up to help make this meaningful purchase possible for a wife who had given so much to the family. Meri had to arrange all financing for her grandmother's house completely on her own. She had to find her own down payment, secure her own mortgage, and manage every aspect of the purchase without family support. This was not a random investment property or a vacation home. This was her grandmother's house, a piece of her personal history, a property that meant something beyond mere real estate value. value, and the family that supposedly shared resources could not find a single dollar to help make it happen. Sources close to Meri describe the grandmother's house situation as the moment she fully understood how little she mattered to the family financial system. One insider said watching her struggle to arrange financing while knowing Robyn had unlimited access to family funds was devastating. Another revealed that Meri specifically asked for help and was told the money was not available, this while Robyn was upgrading to a mansion with a guest house. The cruelty is almost cartoonish in its obviousness. The contrast demands to be stated explicitly because it is so damning. Robyn could not find a rental that met her specifications, so the family bought her a house. Robyn decided her first house was not adequate, so the family bought her a mansion. Meri wanted to purchase her grandmother's home using family resources that she had contributed to substantially, and she was told to figure it out herself. Unlimited funds for Robyn's preferences, nothing for Meri's deeply personal needs. This is not equal treatment by any possible definition. What makes this betrayal even deeper is understanding that Meri had spent years contributing to the family pool without complaint. She worked, she earned, she put money into the system that was supposed to benefit everyone equally. When she needed the system to benefit her just once, for something that truly mattered to her personally, the system was suddenly empty. The money was unavailable, she was on her own. Meanwhile, Robyn never seemed to find the family coffers empty when she needed something. But perhaps the most revealing detail of all is the existence of NDAs designed to keep these financial arrangements secret, and what those agreements tell us about how aware Kody and Robyn were that their system was fundamentally unfair. The revelation that Meri was expected to sign non-disclosure agreements about how family money was handled is perhaps the most damning detail to emerge from this entire scandal. You do not demand silence about something unless you know it would look terrible in the light. You do not require NDAs about financial arrangements unless you understand those arrangements would cause outrage if exposed. The very existence of these agreements proves that Kody and Robyn knew exactly what they were doing and how wrong it was. Let me be clear about what this means. Kody and Robyn were aware that redirecting Meri's money to fund their mansion purchases was indefensible. They understood that treating the other wives as sources of funds while hoarding resources for themselves would cause problems if exposed. Their solution was not to change their behavior or create fairer arrangements. Their solution was to silence anyone who might speak about it. That is not the behavior of people who believe they are acting justly. That is the behavior of people who know they are exploiting others. Sources reveal that Meri was pressured repeatedly to sign agreements that would prevent her from discussing family finances publicly. One insider described the pressure as intense and persistent, with implications that refusing would create serious problems for Meri within the family. Another said the NDAs were presented as necessary for family privacy when they were really designed to protect Kody and Robyn from accountability. The manipulation was layered and deliberate. Meri's declaration that she is done being quiet represents a fundamental shift in how she is approaching her relationship with this family. For years, she stayed silent out of loyalty, out of hope that things might improve, out of whatever combination of obligation and fear kept her compliant. But watching Robyn live in luxury funded by her own money while she struggled appears to have been a breaking point. The silence was protecting people who never protected her, and she has finally decided to stop. What future revelations might emerge now that Meri has started talking is a question that should terrify Kody and Robyn. If the financial arrangements were bad enough to require NDAs, what else is hiding behind those agreements? What other betrayals, what other manipulations, what other examples of favoritism and exploitation might come to light now that Meri is speaking freely? The floodgates have opened, and there is no telling what might pour through. But the likelihood of actual accountability, of Kody and Robyn admitting wrongdoing or making things right, seems vanishingly small given everything we know about how they operate. The shattered trust at the center of this scandal cannot be overstated. Meri Brown funded Robyn's luxury lifestyle while receiving absolutely nothing in return. She watched her own money she earned through her own work, transform into mansions and guest houses she would never live in. She was expected to stay silent about these arrangements, to pretend everything was fair and equal while the evidence of favoritism surrounded her daily. And through it all, she was treated as an afterthought by the husband she had married decades ago and the family she had sacrificed so much for. Whether Kody and Robyn will ever admit wrongdoing seems unlikely based on every indication of how they handle criticism. Deflection is their default mode. They blame circumstances, blame other wives, blame anything and anyone except themselves. The pattern is so consistent that expecting genuine accountability from them requires ignoring years of evidence to the contrary. Robyn will likely continue claiming she never asked for special treatment while living in a mansion funded by another wife's money. Kody will likely continue pretending the financial system was fair while refusing to explain how fairness resulted in such wildly different outcomes. Fans have been demanding accountability for years, and those demands have only intensified as more details emerge. The impact on the children is a particular concern that viewers raise repeatedly. These kids watched their mothers treated unequally, watched resources flow to one household while others went without, watched a family system that claimed to be about love and sacrifice operate as a mechanism for exploitation. What lessons did they learn? What understanding of fairness and partnership did they develop watching this dynamic? The damage extends far beyond the wives directly involved. The question that remains is whether exposure is enough or whether Meri should pursue more concrete remedies. Legal action to recover money that was essentially taken from her under false pretenses is not outside the realm of possibility. The documentation exists. The paper trail is clear. A court might well look at how Kody claimed proceeds from a home he never paid for and find that arrangement legally questionable regardless of what any marriage agreement supposedly required. But there is also something to be said for the revenge of truth. Meri has exposed the Brown family financial system for exactly what it was: a mechanism for extracting value from wives who were out of favor and directing it toward the wife who held Kody's attention. She has named the betrayal, documented it, and shared it with a world that was always suspicious but never had confirmation. That exposure may be its own form of justice, even if money never changes hands. Robyn will live in her mansion, knowing the world knows exactly how she got it. Kody will face questions about his conduct for the rest of his public life. And Meri finally can live with the truth fully told rather than carrying secrets designed to protect people who never protected her.